Hey guys, it's Brian. I'm a 17-year-old male. I just turned 17 and my dad is in the middle of his divorce. His ex wants me to go to her 50% of the time like my younger half-siblings from their marriage are. But my dad's ex is not my mom and I don't want to have any kind of custody time with her. I'm happy their marriage is ending. Happier than ever since they got married. Since being really forceful about this, and I heard her yell down the phone when she was talking to Dad the other night, which is why I asked. My mom died when I was 5, and in part, that's why I never liked my dad's ex. I met her when I was 6. She came over one day while I was home. She got uncomfortable seeing photos of my mom or us as a family and either hid them or put them down so she wouldn't have to see. Then she was talking about how excited she was to be in my life. When she and my dad got engaged, she started to get agitated that I didn't want to be in the wedding. And I was still talking about mom. She asked me why I had to talk about my mom and why I couldn't be happy with the mom I had right there. She told me often that she loved me and wanted me to say it back, but I never did. My dad was really weak about standing up for me and making her back off. My relationship with him got worse because of this, but I never had a good relationship with her. I hated her for being so upset about my mom. Her jealousy made me want nothing to do with her. I never have gave her the love and affection she basically begged me for. She and my dad had 5 kids together while they were married, and each time she'd act like my half-siblings would be the reason I would finally start to love her. The only time my dad was good was when he talked about mom with me or shared a story about her, but he did it when his ex wouldn't hear. But he also told me that she felt insecure and clung so tightly to mom that it made her feel like she had no place in our family. I do think she loves me. I just think she doesn't love me in a healthy way. It's more selfish. Something I learned to accept in therapy. That she can love me, like really love me, but it still could be unhealthy. When my dad and her announced they were getting a divorce, I really was happy. My dad had already made a stand for me, and he told her we were going to celebrate my mom's birthday together. Just him and me. I think that was the final straw in their marriage. But even after everything, she still wants me around. Well, I don't want her in my life. Even though she's the mother of my half-siblings, I don't want to see her much. If I could never see her again, it would make me happy, even though I'm more indifferent now. But she's really pushing for this, and my dad has asked me to consider it, to think about all the years she tried, even if it wasn't great. I told him not to go back to putting her before me. After I heard her yelling at Dad, she asked me how I could be so ungrateful. So am I the a-hole? Hey guys, this next story up, the big question is, am I the a-hole for starting my wedding ceremony before my mom showed up? This is Brian. Let's jump right into this story. Well, the day of the wedding started out as they normally do. I'm the bride, a female, and was inside getting ready, and the final touches were being made outside. After I was almost ready by noon, my mom had to run back to the hotel 20 minutes away to change and come back with my grandma and family friend. The invitation says the ceremony was at 2. As per usual, we were a little late starting, but nothing real crazy. Next thing I know, I walked myself down the aisle with no mom, grandma, or family friend in sight. The ceremony continues, and it's over before we know it. Still nothing. After 45 minutes, finally they pulled up. Then I proceeded to go tell them it's over and that they missed it, and that 2 meant 2. My mother immediately became hostile and proceeded to blame the bakery for not having buns ready. Then they said they were stopped by a train, and my personal favorite was, "It's your fault you didn't call or text to see where we are." Excuse me? Again, the invitation said 2. Also, note the officiant also had another wedding to get to after mine, so it was a tight schedule. So, am I the a-hole for not holding up the ceremony? Side note, I found out the real reason why they were late. She wasn't done getting herself ready, therefore she held up everyone. But she is mad at me now and says it's my fault. Hey guys, it's Brian. Now this next story up is a good one. Am I the a-hole for selling my car and it died days after? Hey everyone, a little backstory. So I sold my car on July 25th to a young man who drove 1.5 hours to come get it. Now, I recently got a Facebook message from a girl, not sure how they're related, and she said he passed away the day after he got the car. So now the car is in a towing lot over 1.5 hours from me, And since he never switched the title over from him to me, the car is still in my name, and they're asking me to come to the lot so they can get the car out. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to do that? I mean, I have a little baby and I work 50 hours a week, and she's rushing me to come so they can get it out. All right, update. She said he passed the next day, but the police said it was over a week after he bought the car from me. So he had time to switch that title over, didn't he? All right, a second update. I called the towing company, and I will be responsible to pay for the car to get it out of the lot because the car's in my name, and it's already over $1,000. And finally, I work till at least 5 every day, and she's asking me to take a day off or leave work early since it closes at 5. I can't take off time. It's my second week there. Hey guys, it's Brian. This next story up. Here's the question. Am I the a-hole for asking my ex-husband to help pay for our daughter's medical testing? Okay, so here's the scoop. Let's jump in. I got divorced about 6 years ago with 3 kids. At the time, 12, and 14. Now, my divorce decree stated we were to split children's medical expenses 60-40. Now, unfortunately, it did not have an age expiration date or specific language about what was included. Our daughter now, who's 20, has always had vague and persistent health issues, headaches, fatigue, nausea, prone to illness, you know. So over the years, I've taken her to lots of doctors and specialists, and we've not found anything definitely wrong. Her father has always blamed her eating habits and lack of exercise, and has never agreed that there could be anything physically wrong. So this summer, between her sophomore and junior years in college, I took it on myself to figure out what was going on, what was wrong. So I found a good internal medicine doctor who believed there was a problem and sent her off to specialists to get to the bottom of it. Through months of scans and blood tests, she was diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease and endometriosis. Now, the internist impressed upon us that we had found it so early that there was little to no damage on her ovaries and thyroid, which was really great news. Now, the testing was fairly expensive, and I paid all of the co-pays on my credit card. So I asked my ex to pay for part of them, since they were for our daughter's health, and he refused, stating that we had just internet fear-mongered and that she had made herself sick by not eating properly. He also said he should have been consulted and involved in the process, which our daughter did not want. So am I the a-hole for not making a financial plan and discussing it with my ex-husband before we did all this testing? All right, guys, this next story up. Hey, this is Brian. The question is, am I the a-hole for waving my passport in someone's face? I'm a 26-year-old male, and I'm British, and I am a dual citizen of the United Kingdom and Ireland. Now, this is important to the story. While traveling, I was staying in a hotel, and a group of us there decided to go out to some bar. One of the group was an American guy. Let's call him Jay. Now, for some reason, Jay immediately took it against me. He started with a few jokes he made about me being British, which I can take, you know, with the bland food, bad weather type stereotypes. And as the bar crawl kept going, he was getting drunker and making more and more comments against me. Now, for instance, he just started referring to me as the limey and was constantly saying things like he celebrated when the Queen died. It was no longer funny and was just all the time making jabs about where I'm from. I'm hardly patriotic and would be the first to complain about my country, but there was a point where I was getting offended and it was personally directed at me. He started imitating and mocking my accent. Eventually, I got annoyed and asked him why he thought he had the right to constantly be dunking on me and what is his problem with Britain. Jay's comment was along the lines of, I'm British, so it's allowed for me to constantly hate on Britain. Well, my family came to America because of the famine, and a bunch of other comments like that. At this point, I was a bit drunk and had lost my temper, so I responded by waving my passport in his face. I asked him questions like if he had ever actually been to Ireland, knew any family there, or knew anything about Irish culture, which he barely knew anything, didn't know any of the family, and the only time he ever spent in Ireland was a week in Dublin. I started lecturing, saying that a lot of Irish people had immigrated to the UK and that after his family spent over 100 years in the United States, he barely had any right to consider himself Irish, let alone think it's acceptable to just hate on random people from another country. Now, the other people in this bar crawl had noticed me losing my temper and laying into the guy and called me an a-hole since he was only joking. And it's stupid to play that I'm more Irish than you game and should have just asked him to stop earlier. This next story up, guys, I'm Brian, and let me give you the question. Let's not waste any more time. Let's jump in. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad he's crazy if he thinks I'm going to his house during the week just to make food for his stepkids? Okay, so my parents are divorced. I'm a 16-year-old male, now living with my mom, and I visit my dad every other weekend. Now, the change happened about a year ago. The judge won't let me stop going out those weekends, but I wish I could. I have a younger brother, he's 14, and a younger sister, she's 11. Now, my dad's married and has a stepson, 10, and a stepdaughter, 7. He asked me a couple of weeks ago to come to his house after school and make food for them before going home. He asked this because he found out that I sometimes make food for my siblings when mom works. He asked me about it the next weekend I was over there. He wanted to know why I never did it at his house, and I said I just didn't. He told me I could make food for all 4 of the kids. I told him no, that wasn't happening. He asked why, and I said because I don't mind making something for me and my siblings, but I'm not making food for just anyone. He told me his stepkids are my siblings too, just not my blood. And I told him they're not my siblings, and I never said they were. Then 2 weeks ago, he asked to go and cook for his stepkids after school. This is during weeks my siblings are home with me and mom, and weeks they're with him. I told him no, and he made the weekend annoying as freak. My mom told him to leave me alone. I'm a kid, and I already chose not to keep 50-50 custody, so he'd want to cherish the time he has with me. He told mom to shut up. I didn't do what he asked. And then he mentioned it to me Sunday, and that's when I told him he's crazy if I thinks I'm going to his house for the week just to make food for his stepkids. He told me if I can do it for my siblings, I can do it for them. I told him I love my siblings. That's why I do it. Then it was like he focused on calling him crazy, and he said it's not crazy to expect family to treat each other the same, and how I'm showing blatant favoritism for my blood siblings and not my siblings through marriage. He told me it's cruel to be so blunt about it. So am I the a-hole? All right, this next story up. Am I the a-hole for not paying my ex child support? Let's jump right into this story. My ex moved away a year ago and left our kid with me. Now, we discussed his plan beforehand, and I told him I didn't think it was the best idea for the kid, but he did it anyway. He now lives in his parents' basement rent-free. I took him to court because I was concerned that he would try to take our kid with him. I won custody, and with that, child support. He sees him every other weekend. It's not very much money and doesn't make a dent in my expenses, but it was a nice bonus to ensure that my kid stays with me in a home with his own bedroom instead of his grandparents' moldy basement. Anyway, he's paid for a few months and now is saying that I should send him part of the money back because he wants to save so he can move closer to the kid. He's already telling the kid that it's my fault because I'm taking all of his money. So I do make more money than him, but I am struggling financially as well. So am I the a-hole for telling him I wouldn't pay him child support?